in the traveling village, we have so many different ways of raising kids. So for example, let's say one family's not into screen time, but there's a whole event for the whole traveling village that's a game night and it's screens. Or one family doesn't drink, but we're having sunset drinks. And this is all like on the village calendar. So how do you sort of navigate that, or what are your feelings on that? And how do you set boundaries?
One of the core tenets of traveling village, it's experimentation. It's like challenge your life views by doing this. It is what it is. We can't fight all the conditions all the time. You have to pick and choose your battles. But it's like a growth area for me and my kid. She has gotten so much better.
It's been amazing to see how more shy kids, now they're getting used to like the other adults and they're not speaking the same language, but they're still like connecting somehow. And that's one of the things that makes it a little bit sad that it's just 4 months and it's ending now.
Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Traveling Village podcast. I am Asha. I am a village member. I'm here with Nikolai, who is a founding member, and Kiran, who is one of the founding families. And we're in Japan now. So I guess first I wanted to start off with kind of highs and lows of the past couple weeks since our last episode. And then we'll get into sort of the transition between Thailand and Japan. So I think my highlight is actually just being in Japan. I love it here. It's so completely different than Thailand. And then my low, I would say, is just feeling like a foreigner, which is kind of nice because we kind of are just fitting into their culture. But in a way, it's a little stressful because I don't know all the rules and customs, and it's a little bit stressful. I feel like I'm always sort of making a mistake with things I'm doing.
There are a lot of rules. Like I went to the gym the other day, and every piece of equipment has some placard telling me what to do or what not to do.
And weren't you not allowed in one of the gyms?
Yeah, the tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I had to cover it. That's all. They just expected me to cover it.
Okay, so can you explain that for people that don't know?
So I think for some reasons and historical reasons, the Japanese culture frowns upon tattoos. But it's also, they love art. So there is a lot of tattoo parlors here. It's very confusing to me. Anyway, in gyms, you're not allowed to display tattoos. There's not a single gym.
I think it's because the tattoos in Japan is associated with the mob.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's probably something.
I don't know if it feels almost deeper than that. Is that the only thing? Because I don't know. It's not been relevant for many years now.
One thing I noticed in Japan is they do a lot of stuff out of respect for strangers.
Yeah.
And for example, I read that, people are not using their balconies. And for 2 weeks, I've been looking at balconies, and there's a lot of balconies around.
I never noticed this, by the way, until Nikolai pointed it out.
There's nobody sitting on the balconies. And in Denmark, one ray of sunshine and people are shirt off, you know. But here, I haven't seen one person. It's only for laundry. And apparently, I read that it's for privacy reasons, but it's also like a respect thing for strangers. So they're not like let into your world, and they have to have that in their head. So I think there's a lot of those small things that we don't notice, and then
and there's a huge difference.
The balconies.
Exactly, between private spaces, public spaces. They're very careful with public spaces. Like you're not allowed to park your bike anywhere because that's a public space, so it should be for everyone. You're only allowed to park in designated locations. I see a lot of shopkeepers cleaning just their area because that is the part of the street they maintain. Very interesting.
I went to the library the other day, and all the strollers were lined up. And so I put my stroller in a line. I thought it was well done, putting in the straight line. Went in, and I saw the security guard come over. He moved my stroller 2 inches to the right so it could be exactly. And I was like, okay, I just messed that up too. Yeah. So anyway, moving on. How about your highs and lows?
Man, I can't beat living in Japan. I think the high here is just aesthetically, I find the whole city so beautiful, and it feels like I'm elevating my thoughts. So I walk around, I don't even do much all day. I haven't been to this park, and it's the Imperial Park that I think you would go to on your first day in Kyoto. Anyway, I haven't done a ton, but every time I walk around the block, I get new ideas of things I want to do or people I want to try and work with, or I don't know. I just love this place. So I agree with you. I think Japan is definitely a highlight, and Kyoto in particular has been great. The low, I think we made a calculated bet on living by ourselves in this place. So maybe we can get into this in a little bit, but there are 2 major hubs of people in the village. One is near Nijo Castle, and then one is in this Fujitaya, which is this hostel B&B, like very nice place where you're staying, and you're staying at Ina. So you guys are at the two hubs. For one, our place that was close to Ina House got cancelled, so we had to move out close to Kyoto Station. On one hand, it's away from everyone, but on the other hand, we're so close to transport that it's been fairly easy to get to places. So my low is just being away from everyone, and that's been like tough, but also kind of useful to me. How about you?
Yeah, I think my high is also just being in Japan. That was definitely one of the 3 locations that I was personally looking most forward to. I love just as you, just walking the streets. There's a lot of tourists here, but I don't feel the big need to go to the big temples or stuff like that. We live in a very normal neighborhood with just small streets, and just walking around is just so amazing, I think. And that's definitely my high. And it's also, time is flying so much. So now I'm also starting slowly to look forward to getting home. So I think that combination, being really happy about being in Japan and looking forward to getting home, makes me do, like a lot of stuff here. Yeah, so we love it here, and we've been super, super, super lucky with our accommodation. We are 7 families, and it's actually a hostel. So we have shared bathrooms and a shared kitchen, but it works out really well. They have like 24 rooms, and we are 7 families from the village. So we have the whole ground floor. So we actually have a door we can close, then we have our own space. We have an extra room that we use as a playroom and a workroom. And that works really, really well because we have a few people working and meetings and stuff like that.
Have you been there yet?
I haven't been there.
No, you should come.
Check it out.
Yeah, I want to.
They have a whole hallway that's like just traveling village.
Wow.
And it's like all the rooms kind of look.
Plus our like extra room.
Plus the extra room.
It's very small, but it's enough to have our small. We have like a weekly meeting and stuff like that. And then there's the shared space. But the coolest thing is that the owner lives there, and he has 2 kids. And I found the place 1 year ago, and he was so excited about the village and us coming. So you feel that he really wants to speak with to us. And so it's been, people were so nervous about the shared bathrooms. And, when I posted that place, nobody signed up.
That's why I didn't do it. That's why I didn't sign up for that one.
Because people were...
Not an issue, though, apparently.
Yeah.
The shared bathrooms has not been...
And then people started checking prices around the city, and then they signed up. But it has worked much better than I thought. And we actually, we would love to come back to that place and stay again.
It looked really good. I think what's tough about that location, though, is it's hard to get to. Like, it's not central.
It's not central, but
to have a hub there, if everyone was staying there, it would be amazing. But like I tried it. It was a walk, right? Like we had to go to the park, and then
it's like 10,
15-minute walk.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing. My low is probably that it's so nice where we are, and we're so connected now with the 6 families that we're staying with, and there's so much to do, and that there's some families that I haven't really seen a lot because we are just spread so much out around the city. So I think that's a little bit tough, because I feel it's a weird way to end the village. If there's some people you only see in a month, you see them a handful of times, and we were used to seeing each other a lot.
Daily. We were neighbors.
Yeah. I miss you.
It's tough. I miss you too.
So,
yeah, I've seen, this is true because I've probably seen Nikolai all of 4 times.
Yeah, in 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've seen you a handful of times as well. And we have to plan now to like hang out.
It's more planning,
It's tough.
Right.
But maybe this leads on to the next question. But I think it's actually a perfect experience to get because it's so clear what the walkability thing does. If we are close to each other, it doesn't have to be like in Thailand where we are neighbors. But if it's like 5 minutes walk, so many things will happen, and that this is like the extreme contrast to Thailand.
Well, so that's actually what I want to talk about is the transition going from Thailand to this beach place to Japan. It is polar opposite. It could not be more opposite.
There's not one similar thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine any similarities.
Can you mention one similar thing? I can.
No.
Because we went from the beach, we were all dirty, sand in the rooms.
The kids running around naked.
Kids running around naked, screaming, throwing stuff.
All living together.
Yeah. And now it's spread out. And it's also, they do a lot of stuff here with cleaning. So, for example, we had some issues at our place where the kids were running outside in their socks. Mm-hmm. And the people from the place, they really don't like that. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
And they tell you.
The places are spotless. All the restaurants are like really clean. The streets are clean, right?
Do you know, I saw a garbage truck picking up the garbage outside of our place, and there was one.
We had a truck, 2 alarms. We had an ice cream, like a dog having ice cream behind us, and now we have a photo shoot behind us. It's going really well.
In common then.
Wait, should I start?
All the locations.
Wait, is this still a recording? Or?
The one thing in common between all the locations is that they're all tough to podcast in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every place we've had to jerry-rig some sort of podcast location. We've made it hard on ourselves because we want to present you, the viewer, with a beautiful locale.
Yeah. I was imagining a temple we were sitting in. That was a little bit more difficult to plan out.
They would definitely kick us out if we podcasted in a temple. Yeah. That seems a little bit sacrilegious.
Oh, wow. It really is a photo shoot.
Yeah, it's a photo. That's cool.
Going back to the cleanliness. So outside of our building, there was a garbage truck picking up the garbage. And there was one guy with a little broom sweeping it up so nothing was left on the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
then
cool.
at a construction site, they were putting all this dirt in a dump truck. There was one guy on each side with a hose hosing off the wheels of the dump truck so they didn't leave any marks when they left the construction site.
Oh my God.
It is... It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It seems stressful as heck. Like when I'm in the gym,
Yes.
I see like a bunch of people lift weights. Everyone's sweaty. It's impossible to keep these things clean. But everyone is like really methodical at cleaning the weights. Adds like 10, 15 minutes. Whereas in Thailand, we were just dirty. We were in the filth. Like no one cleaned anything.
The gym in Thailand.
The gym was gross. The gym was so gross.
Yeah.
If you get on the floor and do a push-up, you're just covered in like dirt. It's crazy. There's cats in the gym. And here you're not allowed to wear your shoes in the locker room. It's so different.
I feel like I am bowing all the time because I don't know like how to say sorry, Rose. I'm like, sorry.
You gotta stop bowing.
I know I do, but it's like, it comes naturally. I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I just feel like so the other day we're at the Osaka Kids Plaza Museum.
Yeah.
And my son decides he doesn't want to wear shoes, as usual. And I was like, oh my God, please. And here I actually have to make sure he wears shoes. It's just so disrespectful, I think. And so he wouldn't wear shoes. Finally, he runs off across and goes to like this bubble area. And this woman points at his feet. She goes and gets like a little wipe and she takes his feet and cleans them before he enters the area.
Like a stranger or someone?
Oh,
just someone working there.
Yeah. And then she didn't know English, but she did know the word shoes, and she said shoes. And I was like, sorry.
Yeah.
But they love kids here. That is the other commonality.
Yeah.
They all love kids.
Yeah.
So they get it. Like now, I've seen some Japanese kids throw tantrums too.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about our place is that they have 2 kids too.
They have 2 kids.
And they are like 3 and 5, I think. So that's, kids are just,
Kids are kids. Our kids are louder than the kids here. Like the water is different, the air they've been breathing.
Yeah.
The kids here are like surprisingly so.
Yeah.
Especially in field trips. You saw those kids in the field trip?
Yeah, they are in line.
Well, even at the playground that day, we were all there, and all their backpacks were perfectly lined up next to each other.
The discipline.
They get in single file lines for things. Even getting on the train, the adults get in single file lines. There's no jaywalking. Yeah. It's just so different.
Yeah. But I think it kind of works out with our kids because you could be concerned, and internally in the village we probably feel different about these things, but I think it kind of works out because, as you say, people here love kids and they know that kids are kids, but it's also, you just need to manage them in a few places, but then, they can let loose in the parks.
But this is one difficulty that we are, as a group, I think we're facing. When we've gone to the previous 2 locations, and this is a big shift, is that the cultures there were a lot more accepting, a lot more flexible. right? Like if you went to Vietnam and then Thailand even more so, especially where we stayed in Koh Lanta, they were very, like, Koh Lanta had a lot of like Swedish influence. And they were very accepting of how people are expecting. Like
They also cater to tourists in these other places, and Japan does not.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're far more catering to tourists.
We have to fit into their culture here, right? So it's just different.
But I think that's one thing that we're not on the same page in the traveling village, right? And that's tourism as a whole. How are we supposed to assimilate and try our best? Because even if you assimilate, you're not going to be able to assimilate into a culture in like a month, right? It's a fool's errand. There's no way you can pick up on all these like small subliminal things that everyone does just automatically. There's no way we could do it.
And we had the case, one of the first few days, we had a communal meal, conveyor belt sushi meal. And I think that was the first time I saw that we were feeling like a little bit different about because that place is like a family place. And I was kind of relaxed about the kids were a bit noisy and stuff like that. But I know some people felt that it was too much with our kid, that we needed to be more respectful. And that there was some kids put stuff up on the belt, so we was going in like ice cream and stuff like that. But I was next to it, so we were pulling things down again. And it was, it's also, I think you definitely need to be respectful, but it's also, kids should also be allowed to be kids, And I know it's different here, and we shouldn't go crazy or destroy things or be noisy. But, we don't have to be 100% perfect Japanese.
No, but I'm saying that's the dichotomy. It's either some people are trying to assimilate and like just do their best, but other people are like rejecting that premise at all and are just like, we are who we are, and our kids are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah. Those
are two different, not necessarily compatible mindsets when coming to a new place. And I think that's the difficulty. Like, I will say, like,
I think it has been causing some conflict in the traveling village a little bit, right?
It's very tough to resolve those two things.
Yeah.
It's very much about identity. It's not like we're going to have those conversations in these 5 weeks to resolve it, because in 2 weeks we're going to move. But
that's probably if we were doing this longer, a lot of these things, which I will say these things are not minor, but it's smaller conflicts now.
Yeah.
But if we were doing this longer, a lot of these small things would be bigger problems.
Bubble up to the surface.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the money conflicts we had, which we talked about in the last episode, those are probably bigger. But these are more like annoying, right? Like they're the small little annoyances. You'll see someone do something and be like, I wouldn't do that. Or I'll do something and be like, oh, shoot, did I mess up? Like, is everyone judging me for this?
Yeah.
And it's not just us in Japan community, it is us with the traveling village. So like that's also hard.
Yeah.
Right?
I think another difficulty is like we're traveling as such a big group, and in Japan things are just smaller in general. So they can't accommodate huge groups of people. So, even when we had I know some events were planned and they can't accommodate like everyone. So little groups are splitting off and having dinners together.
Yeah.
Things like that.
And any big group, you can't just throw it open and say, hey, anyone who wants to come. It has to be way more planned out here.
And that's the challenge here, because people are living far away and they really want to, if there's something happening, they want to join. So something where it's probably should just be 10 people, it's 30 people
30
going. But so there's some challenges. I think it could have worked as a city really well if we were closer to each other. Not necessarily in the same place, but just, in same neighborhood.
No, if I had done it again, I think I would say we should have just moved the hub to Fujitaya. We didn't know, right? Like, it was hard to just take this bet, but it would be so cool to have one hostel or one, like, really nice spot, have most of the families there, and everyone else can kind of satellite around.
But we took the fundamental decision that we wanted to, like, say to people, this is at the center, try to find something close, but we also let people be completely free. And, when it's 6 months before and you book your lodging, then you're say, I'm just going to take the train. It's not going to be a problem, or I'm going to rent a bike.
And some people came on late, and there wasn't really an option for them.
There were no options.
So
quite challenging.
Yeah. But I would say it actually works out pretty well. I think, like, at least for me and for most people, like, it seems like people are going to a lot of events, lots of park meetups, and, you know, we've been lucky with the weather, so it's easy to do stuff. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, and there's so many things to do here, you know, museums and...
You definitely have to make more of a concerted effort, but I think people in general feel just happy here.
Yeah.
And people really are enjoying Japan. So it's...
We should have, all three of us, I think, struggle in Koh Lanta, and we're doing better in Japan. I talk to people who are struggling here in the city.
Really?
Yeah. I heard for a lot of said that they're so happy.
They loved Koh Lanta, and it was like the beach and like of course we had.
Really?
Of course we had.
After this, you have to let me know who it is. I'm so curious. Wow.
We should have
I've never seen such a shocked face.
Why are you so shocked? You love
out of all people.
You said Koh Lanta like changed the game for you in Traveling Village.
It helped my state of mind because my son was happy there.
Yes.
And I didn't have to like...
If we had brought Kef on this podcast, what do you think he liked better? The beaches of Koh Lanta or...
Well, he loves not wearing clothes, so probably the beach life.
Exactly. He loves the beach. I think Saksh also, if she had her way, we have told her in Japan, you have to be quiet a little bit. So she's like, and I'm in Japan? Okay, I'm going to use my inside voice everywhere.
Yeah. My son does not have an inside voice. We've talked about it. It just doesn't work.
He hasn't developed that yet.
You know what's interesting, though? Because this trip is kind of coming to an end, and I'm already like thinking about, all the things I have to do when I get home, my brain is halfway somewhere else. And I'm also, even though I want to see everyone, I don't have as much energy to do things and to go to all the events and getting him on a train and going 35 minutes away somewhere is like more challenging. And so, I mean, I'm hanging out at playgrounds all day long, which is,
they're nice playgrounds.
They're really nice playgrounds. It's great. And he's having a great time. But you would think in Japan, you want to go see all the different things. And I don't have as much energy to go do all those things.
I think that could be a conclusion for the whole village is that it's been intense. You know, it's 3 very different countries. We all did small trips between the 3 locations. It's a lot of people. You know, if you look at the calendar, it's insane what's going on.
It's still packed, even in Japan. Like every day there's like an event or two that I feel like.
I think that my family is joining, less than 10% of the things, but it's still like we have full days. And some days it's just like meeting up with other people or at our place. But it's been a lot. And I think, for most people, it will be good to go back home, digest. Yeah. And, our life back home is so much more slow or, there's so much going on here in the village. So it's...
you can...
Yeah, I have the same feeling.
Entire weeks without any plans.
Yeah.
Sometimes at home. And here it's like daily.
You have three plans a day.
Yeah, 3 plans a day. It's very natural. And in some ways, we picked the perfect location to be a little bit slower. Slow-paced. Kyoto is not like a fast-paced city. You can kind of go at your own pace. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this being the last location? Like, would you have switched anything up?
Not in the big picture, because you have to, there's the seasons, the weather, and holidays and stuff like that. I actually think it's been quite perfect. Hoi An was so amazing, and Koh Lanta was in many ways a great experience because we got that free play for the kids. I think if we have just focused entirely on culture and museums and for the adults, it was so great to see the kids there. That was magic. And for me, because I like Japan, it's a really cool end to the whole thing. But I feel like you that I don't have, I'm running out of, I'm slowly starting to get ready to get back home.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit annoying because this is the location where I want to do the most, but I'm not doing as much as I want. But traveling with the Traveling Village, we have been doing so much more than compared to normal trips we have been doing when it's just our family or if we're traveling with a few friends. It's, these 4 months there's been so much, so...
so much more and different stuff, right? Like, I would never do some of the things that I've done with this group because people have brought their own preferences and have organized really cool stuff. But yeah, I don't think I would do the types of things as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's sad in some ways to end on a low energy place, but also, like I said, it's a contemplative city. And I think a lot of people, when they joined the trip, said that they want to figure out their preference. Like, they want to figure out how they want to live. And also, what would be success for them is to feel changed by the end of it. And so, in that respect, Kyoto's perfect to end on. I would only switch Vietnam and Koh Lanta. If I did it again, I would go Koh Lanta first, get everyone through the furnace that is Banana Beach, and then go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Japan.
I feel it's been kind of perfect, but
I always think you're such an optimist, Nikolai.
not really. No. That
You
would be
seem
the.
much happier
You
here.
seem so happy here. Like,
I am
our
really
listeners,
happy here.
Please comment if you think.
Please
Nikolai's
don't
happy
comment.
here. we should add that at the end.
I wish I had some
Nikolai
videos of
seems
Nikolai
so much
walking around in Koh Lanta and Nikolai walking around here.
Yeah. It would be like night and day. And you've been wearing this shirt, at least a couple times I've seen you, you've worn this shirt.
Every
You
time
look
you've
so
seen him,
happy. Like, yellow is just a happy
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm a sunshine now.
So you know what's funny? So you actually said to me the other day, Nikolai, you said, I hope that you don't go home and think this is the worst decision you've ever made. And I was like, why
That's
would you
so hard.
say that? Yeah. And
Of course I don't hope.
but it was funny that you said that. And I think it was probably in response to because I was having a challenging time with my son. But I mean, I've thought about this a lot because there were so many times I thought about going home, and I'm so glad I stuck it out.
From the first day, it's been challenging, right?
From
Like,
the first day.
From the plane.
From the plane over to Vietnam, it was challenging. And so I feel like this is such an intense experience. It's the kind of thing where this is by far the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. And also, I think, going to end up being one of the best things I've done. Just lost what I was saying.
No, but I
It doesn't
think
work out like that. You're right.
Yeah.
If it's a difficult thing, we didn't want this to be easy. When Nikolai pitched the idea and the way we were talking about it in the founding families, it was not meant to be easy, but it was meant to be like
game changing.
that put people out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right.
But you also did the whole thing on hard mode.
Hard mode. I think so.
You're alone with your son, and it is, when it's really hard for me, I can have a break. I can go to a coffee shop, recharge a little bit, because my wife takes the kids, and we can, and it's been hard for us at times, so I could just imagine, so that's where the question came from, because it's, you're working the whole time, and you're probably one of the persons doing the least of the fun stuff that you probably personally want to do.
I've been doing a lot of ball pits. All around Asia, I have been to probably 25 ball pits. I can rate them for you. I should.
Asia ball pit.
And I have to say the ones in Japan are the best. They are wooden balls.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful ball pit
They're
compared
each
to all the
carved.
plastic.
They're like hand carved.
Carved, yeah.
But that's what I think that most, like, the experiment is not really, it's not really been like the perfect solution to a permanent way of living.
Yeah.
But it's been, I definitely think it's been more game changing for a lot of people than I would have thought before going. So I think a lot of people will get home and they will do, maybe not right away, but in the coming years, they will do some changes, take decisions differently because they've been on this trip.
And I also think with such an intense experience, it takes a while to digest and process everything that's gone on. Like, I think this is going to take me a couple months to, like, sort of get back to the swing of things and be like, oh, wow, like, this was really cool how we did this, or this is how I want to live differently now. I've already taken on some of that, but certainly I think there's going to be some definite long-term changes. I think that's going to be for a lot of people here.
Yeah.
I think so. It just bringing the number of intentional, like, I think that's one of the common threads. There's not a ton common between everyone because we did pick from a large group of people, but the intentional way of living is a common theme for everyone. And when you bring this many people who think about how to live together, such great conversations, really cool ideas about, how they want to do things. We've had a lot of discussions on co-living communities, how one person wants to do it in Spain, one person wants to start something in the States. So I think I can definitely see some of those things pop up. How travel people. This trip is a once in a lifetime opportunity for some people. For others, it's just another step in their traveling lifestyle. And so it's really cool to see how people are going to change their travel habits even after doing this. So,
well, it's funny because when I first signed up for this trip, I said, I'm used to going to a place for a week, getting everything done. And I was thinking, God, this is 5 weeks is way too long for me in each country. And now I'm like, wow, I would spend way longer in each country.
Opposite of your usual trip then.
Yeah. So I'm definitely more into the slow travel now. I like that idea. And getting to know your area and kind of people around you and
The whole community thing is going to be fun to see because most of us live, by ourselves back home. And this is completely different with a lot more community. And I think that's going to be one of the hardest things for us when going home will be that, it's been so easy with all of the social things, especially for the kids in these 4 months. But going back home is, it's really back to the old rhythm of arranging play dates, arranging with friends 2 weeks out. We're going to meet up at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday and, everyone's tired, but, we haven't seen them for 2 months and
we got to go.
We got to go and everyone has to perform. And here it's just been we have a low day. We're just going to hang out at home because tomorrow there's a no chance. And, you can go to so many things here and stay for a little bit or you can stay for long. And that, that's been a real game changer for my family to experience that firsthand. So I think that's definitely going to...
Do you feel like you guys have gotten to know your kids better on this trip?
Oh, I think so. Nritya and I actually started trading off Saksh once in a while. Because I realized when it's the three of us, Nritya's still kind of on point and Saksh goes to her. So I was like, let's cut loose and I'm just going to take her for a whole day. And it's working really well. And we started playing Zelda together, so...
And you stayed up till 1 a.m. playing.
Yeah, it was... I love it. So I've definitely gotten to know my kid better. Through the village, I've seen her I've seen my kid grow a lot with other kids.
But some of these
positive. Kids... Not all positive.
Oh.
No comments.
Yeah. She started yelling more. Doesn't wear shoes anymore, Asha.
Sorry.
The shoes thing is definitely kept.
Is the yelling him too?
But I think, some of these kids...
They're playing a lot. It's great.
They have spent 10% of their life in the village. So they have gone through some kind of development, which they would have done no matter what.
We have one kid who's basically the village mascot.
Yeah, he's 1.5, right?
1.5. Mm-hmm. I can't see another village go on without him because he just walks around and he just has charisma. And the kids all gravitate to him. He's like a leader.
You know what's interesting is some of the Danish kids that are 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, they came in not knowing English, and now they can fully have a conversation in English.
Yeah.
Some of them are really...
4 months.
Yeah.
It's you would think some of the English kids, the people who speak English, could have picked up some Danish, but no, that's not happening.
Oh, why would they?
It's a tough language, man.
Yeah. And pretty useless in the big picture of things.
That's true. You could work at Lego.
Yeah, I don't think you need to speak Danish to work.
It might help in the interview. That'd be funny if we see some kid from the village, not one of the Danish kids, but someone who knows all the Danes, go and work in Lego in 10 years, 15 years, and then they'll have a Danish family just inbuilt.
Yeah.
So this is really off subject, and I know we have to kind of wrap up, and this sort of brings a whole new thing up. We can talk about it later, but...
You didn't answer your own question, though.
What was that?
How you gotten to know your kid better in the village? How did that... What do you...
Yeah,
I thought you asked that question.
I was just... No, I think I was just asking it. I haven't really thought about it. I think that I have. I think I've I'm more cued into like his behavioral things. Like if he starts hitting,
things.
I'm like, okay, he's actually exhausted. He's overstimulated. If he starts yelling at all, I'm like, I have to get him out of this situation because there's too many people around. Because and it happens a lot. Like the communal meals, I notice it a lot. He starts getting overwhelmed, and so I'm able to read him a little bit better. I didn't have that opportunity, I think, at home.
Yeah.
So I think I'm understanding him a little more, I guess.
It's cool that I've gotten to know your kids, like both of y'all's kids, better. For the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get to know kids in the wild, right? Like back home. I think it'd be kind of weird to know a bunch of kids like this.
And it's been amazing to see how, more shy kids have been, now they're getting used to like the other adults and they're not speaking the same language, but they're still like connecting somehow. And that's been really amazing to see. And that's one of the things that makes it a little bit sad that it's just 4 months and it's ending now, because there's so many fun connections. And I think a lot of the kids, they actually know the names of, they know, like maybe they don't speak to a lot of people, but they know the whole group. They know that Omar is the fun guy. And as my son mentioned to someone, is that he's the joke master. And, those small things, I think you can really see that we have been a group for a long time now. So,
yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, Kev will see someone across, like, in the distance. He goes, hi. I'm like, what is he looking at? And he'll see someone from the traveling village that he doesn't even really speak to, but he feels comfortable in knowing them and seeing them around.
Yeah. There's definitely a switch after Koh Lanta just to know all the little kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question that's a little bit off topic, and I just want to ask this before we kind of wrap it up. So in the traveling village, we have so many different ways of raising kids and beliefs. And so how do you navigate this? So for example, let's say one family is not into screen time, but there's a whole event for the whole traveling village that's a game night and it's screens. Or let's say one family doesn't want their kids to have sugar, but it's an ice cream night. Or one family doesn't drink, but we're having sunset drinks. This is all part of the village, like on the village calendar. So how do you sort of navigate that? Or what are your feelings on that? And how do you set boundaries?
Yeah. I think I have some really clear opinions and thoughts on that. And I think it's important to say that this is Village 1, where it's not perfect. And, we have had these experiences. And it's something I think you could prevent a little bit more in the future. Because I think the big difference is that you can have a lot of opinions yourself, screen time, or you don't like the zoo or whatever. But it's how flexible you think about these things. Like, and some people are very, it's a completely no-go and they don't like to even slightly be a part of it. And some people are like, I definitely don't want to do that, but I'm part of a community and I will not speak up. You can do what you want. And I think you can be a really small community for vegans or for no screen time or for whatever, where you have some really hardcore values that, are more fixed. But this is a village, and a village has very different kinds of people. It doesn't make sense to make a village project if there's not enough space for people to have different opinions. But that means that we all have to be a little bit flexible.
I think sometimes it's just hard because if your family is not into that, then your kids feel left out.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's hard for the kids.
But there's, a difference between it being black and white. We don't do no screen time and it's not allowed. And then saying like, we minimize screen time.
I think it's totally fine to have that rule. But like, and I'm going to pull from the open source community. I don't know if you guys know this rule. When you design an API surface, you want to keep it really flexible on what it can take in. So like it needs to be hardened against all sorts of like garbage data coming in, but it should be very strict on what it sends out into the world. So what I think about when I'm like raising socks and what I see a lot of families do, they try to be really flexible about what their kid or their family comes in. But when they put out what they do in the world, the events they go to or the events they host for other people, that should be in conformance with your values. I think that's the way I would handle it. If it's the opposite way, it becomes very hard to take part in things like the traveling village, where you're flexible in what you put out into the world. So like, we do whatever we want. But then when the world comes at you with certain things, you're very strict in your input. That's not how I would think about it. I think that just makes it very hard to move in the world and travel and I don't know, be part of a community. One thing I disagree on is we are called the traveling village, but we're 20 families. So it's a real village has a couple hundreds of people, right?
But it's more how you conceptualize it, how you see it.
Concept, I get that.
And the general idea that we're, all saying yes to.
Yeah.
And I think...
And dude, the diversity has made it tough. It's not made it easier, right? If we all had we all loved making swords, we would know what to do.
But that's my point, is that if you have these values, but they are completely fixed and you don't want to be in an environment where there's some screens, for example, or I think the case is that there's some kids playing Minecraft a few times per week. And if your family can be a little bit flexible there, or, then community like this is just going to be really hard. It's going to be hard for you, but it's also going to be hard for the other people. But that's why you see...
growth area for kids, right? If you're able to convince your kid, hey, I know everyone else is doing it, but this is the reason why we're not super into sugar. The sugar thing has been driving me crazy in this village. For a 2-year-old, I think my kid is eating too much sugar.
Yeah.
But everyone's eating ice cream all the time.
Right.
So it's nearly impossible. So you have to pick your battles, but it's a growth area for me and my kid. She has gotten so much better. Initially we used to fight over ice cream. Oh my God, I would have to take her to the room, talk her down. She'd just throw a tantrum. But she's gotten so much better. She'll ask for candy, and we've figured it out at most once a day. And then we have these vitamin gummies to give her a sugar kick, but they're also somewhat good for her. And so we say, no sugar now, put the gummies back in the room. This is tough, guys.
So that was actually my thing too with the sugar, because
killing me.
Before we did this trip,
I didn't notice the sugar. Because there's no sugar at communal meals.
No, a banana, yeah.
A banana, that was different because it was there was the fridge with.
Right. So before I came on this trip, really, my son he's 2, but had really never had that much sugar, actually pretty much at all. Then we got here, and it was so much sugar. And then banana, they had the ice cream machine in the ice cream thing in the middle of the restaurant. And then, some parents are giving their kids ice cream. So he sees that. He wants an ice cream. I'm like, I don't have the energy to fight. And so he ended up getting ice creams every day, which was disgusting.
But I don't feel like this is so much traveling village, because I think you have very small kids. And I think not for 100%, but for most, you go through that experience at some point. They see neighbors, whatever.
Yeah, it was a growth experience because I could rationalize it in Koh Lanta. It was so hot. It was sugar.
Right. And I think for me, I just had to say, okay, when I get home, this is an experiment. These are a few months. You can have sugar. And then when I get home, start over again. Right?
Are you not going to give him a sugar when you get back home?
No,
You still think it's...
He needs a detox of everything. Everything.
Vegetable juice.
Yes.
And spinach.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I never give him apple juice. He has apple juice every day here because there are these machines.
Oh, God.
It's actually great apple juice here.
It's really good apple juice.
Things like that. So anyway, I guess that's kind of why I asked the questions about boundaries and sort of navigating that a little bit.
But this is what I'm saying. You have a boundary, but you're being flexible, and whatever's coming to you, you're being flexible. But when you get home and you have more control over the situation, then that's when your values will exert themselves. And I think that's the way it should be for all of us. It's it is what it is, right? We can't fight all the conditions all the time. You have to pick and choose your battles. And if things don't go your way, it's okay.
But I think there's been,
tomorrow or
thinking about
now, we're back home.
When we're so many families, so different. And, I think there's been a great balance with all of these things. But as soon as you are very, and I'm not judging, but if you have a value that is black and white and you have no flexibility, then it will just be super difficult. That's the same thing with friends back home. Then you need to find friends with the exact same values. So we have people who dislike the zoo, but they still let people go to the zoo. It's not like a big thing. But I think if you're really fixed on your values, and then you have to find a community with the same values.
But I think you joined this community, and we talked about this a lot initially, to challenge your life views. Like one of the core tenets of Traveling Village, and it's like, even though we want everyone to be around, one of the core values is it's experimentation. It's like challenge your life views by doing this, because it's not something that most people would do, and just keep an open mind and like, can this work, and stay flexible. But like one of our core values is flexibility, so I think that would be the problem if you're inflexible.
Yeah.
This won't work.
Okay, well, I think we should probably wrap up. So we will have one more episode before we leave Japan. We may have a guest, may or may not have a guest.
Have we ever had a guest?
No.
Special guest
No,
for the
no.
last episode.
Yeah.
That could be nice with maybe a few.
Yeah.
Surprise village
Yeah.
Yeah.
group. Yeah.
So, and we'll maybe kind of talk about what's worked, what's not worked, and, what could potentially happen in the future, things like that.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So we will see you next week or before we leave Japan.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
grand finale of the Traveling Village podcast.
Exactly.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Cool.
Bye.
Till next time.